Hi, my name is Nancy Metayer Bowen, or hi, bonsoir, moi c'est Nancy Metayer Bowen. My family migrated to South Florida in the early 80s. My mom's story is a little different than my father's story. My mom came here on a student visa with aspirations of attending university here and hopefully becoming a doctor. My dad was actually one of the first waves of the boat people. He migrated here via boat. My father was fleeing a time where education wasn't readily accessible. He wanted to provide for his family, and he didn't see that being in the country at that time. So what he did is what other Haitians at that time did who couldn't afford to come here via visa or a work permit, he hopped on a boat and came here and landed on Miami shores. When he came here, he had nothing. It was basically the clothes that he came here with, the shoes he came here with, and hopefully trying to connect with family members to allow him to stay with them until he got on his feet and then was able to get a job and do all the things and then send money back. So traditionally for folks of Caribbean descent, what you would do is you get a family member who comes here who's the anchor, they work, they settle, they get settled, and then they send for you. And so that is what my dad did. He brought in all 13 brothers and sisters. The ones that were old enough, he went through the immigration process, and then the ones that were young enough, he adopted. So he adopted his siblings, and that is how they were able to come here and basically thrive, live the American dream. So as I had mentioned to you before, my mom grew up very privileged. So there was aspects of the Haitian culture that I really embraced, the etiquette classes, the speaking French at home, just the way that you present yourself as a young woman. And then from my dad's side, my dad comes from the country, and I would always credit my environmental background to him because my dad is a farmer. When my family first migrated here, we didn't live in the best part of town, right? I didn't know that because they kept us very sheltered. And again, as a family unit, we would raise, soil, you would assemble your money, and then the first person would purchase their home, the second person would purchase their home. And so my dad was able to save as much as he could, and then we were able to move here to the city of Coral Springs in 1997. That is when I realized I was different. I was in a community that there wasn't very much people that looked like me. My grandma used to make my lunches going to school, and I would beg for her to make me Lunchables or buy me Lunchables or make me a sandwich like everyone else. But no, she was like packing traditional Haitian dishes. And I'm just like, my moulin sauce pois, who knows what that is, right? And so it was kind of a little embarrassing because everyone's like, what is that? And I'm just like, my moulin sauce pois, you know what I mean? But folks didn't really understand that. And culturally, I still had the barrettes in my hair and all of that. And it's just, no, it was really hard for me because sometimes I would be the butt of jokes. And this is when xenophobic comics were really hurtful, like Haitians have AIDS and you eat cats. It was just, growing up, it was just not cool being Haitian in South Florida. And I strongly remember that. I strongly remember going home and asking my parents questions, why people act this way or why people look at us in this negative light. And really, and that's where the education of our history was embedded in me. And my mom would be like, you come from a lineage of greatness. Our country was able to be the first free Black republic in the Western Hemisphere, and that self-pride was embedded in me in a very early age because of the hate that I was experiencing at school, extracurricular activities, etc. I went into college. I decided environmental engineering is something I would pursue because of my love for agriculture and the environment and all of the things. But then I got into engineering math and I said, oh, this is not for me. So I did a little soul searching and then realized that I really, really enjoyed policy work. So I went into environmental policy and regulation. And I had an amazing advisor who was a former secretary for NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, Dr. Robinson, who really, really was invested and had long conversations with me and was just like, hey, you should really consider governmental work and this track. And he's like, listen, before he went off on his assignment, he's like, look at various environmental agencies and what you would be interested in. But I really had a passion for public health because at this time I was learning about the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and how these different policies came to play. And they came into play because communities of color were disenfranchised. They were carrying the burden of environmental issues that were plaguing our country. And so we needed regulations to protect them. And that is where I got my aha moment. So I was able to pull from what I liked and created a career path that I truly enjoyed. But I knew I wanted to do policy, create policy to change these various dynamics in our country. One example that I can speak on is climate gentrification. We're seeing levels of sea level rise, especially in Miami-Dade, where once desirable areas are no longer desirable because they can't get insured or their homes are being flooded on a daily basis. And historically, we know the Ridge is where Black communities are. Overtown, Little Haiti, Lemon City, all of the historical Black communities are now being gentrified because they're 10 feet above sea level. And it's not by design, right? It's because these are areas where people are seeking refuge and are saying, this is where I can afford. And what's happening to these communities, they're either being pushed out, priced out, or told that their home is not valued what it is, and are being essentially pushed out. And that's unfortunate. That is one example where climate change and social policy intersect. I ran for commission. I didn't win the first time I ran. I ran in 2019 in a special election for mayor. And it was a 60-day race, very, very competitive. It was a four-way race. I was the only woman in that race, the only person of color. And I was running against two former mayors. And these individuals were mayors when I was young. So it was really about me not wanting to see recycled leadership. And so I made phone calls to community members here and asked them, you should consider running. And when everyone was like, no, I don't want to do it, I said, if not them, then who? So I said, I'm going to put my name in the hat. And I decided to run for mayor. Again, I was not a victor in that race, but I came very, very close to becoming mayor in 2019. I believe that it was a blessing in disguise because right after that, COVID happened. And so the individual who was in that role did an amazing job leading our city in the time that we were in because they were a former mayor. They understood what needed to be done, etc. So I am grateful for that opportunity and realized that was not my time. But later on that year, I decided to run for office. There was an open seat on the commission, seat 3. That time it was a very crowded race. It was a 6-way race. And decided to run, didn't do anything different, came in with the same talking points, the same vision for the city, and it resonated with people. I won. I would like to say I won by a landslide and was able to be the victor in 2020. I then again, my time was up in 2024, ran for re-election and ran with no opposition. So my constituents and residents in Coral Springs said, hey, you're doing an amazing job. We want you to stay. No one ran against me. And then in June 2024, I won with no opposition, and now I am the sitting vice mayor for the city of Coral Springs, the first of its kind, first Haitian American, first Black woman to hold the role and to serve in this capacity. I remember me experiencing voter intimidation. As you know, this was a very, very contentious election. This was the first Biden and Trump election, and where everyone were just very uneasy. And so I was at the polling sites for 2 weeks, and of course, my family, who loves me, were there with me every single day, and they went hard for me. But it was always the questioning of their immigration status. It was constant questioning of, am I the right candidate? Very painting me as anti-police, being affiliated with Black Lives Matter, which I was part of the Black Lives Matter Alliance organization here in South Florida. I don't shy away from that experience at all. I'm an organizer, but the way they were framing it as a national terrorist group, it was very, very disgusting to watch and to experience. And to be frank, none of the other candidates were going through that but me. But it showed that folks didn't listen, they didn't pay attention to that, and the supporters that I did have at the polls who were supporting me weren't afraid of them either. And so it just showed the power of people, the power of community, and just folks who truly supported me at that time. One project that I'm truly, truly proud of is the creation of our sustainability office. Prior to me coming on board, there was nothing of that sort here in our city. We successfully hired a sustainability manager. We set some amazing attainable goals to really decrease our dependency on fossil fuel. When I sat on the financial advisory committee, we divest from fossil fuel industries to really help to be the charge in the climate change movement. Really saw that this was an opportunity for Coral Springs to literally pave the way for other municipalities, not only in Broward County, but throughout the state of Florida or even internationally. Another example that I'm super proud of is my shadowing program, where I've had the ability to have young individuals who look like me, who can see themselves in this role one day. Hey, I was able to shadow Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen and had the opportunity to sit at the dais, had the opportunity to sit through an agenda briefing. They can see themselves as someone in this position in the near future. When I say racial justice, I am thinking of creating a place where we're not siloed, where we're not disenfranchised, we're not disadvantaged, but a place where we are all able to thrive, especially Black folks. Be authentic, be your true self. There's so many individuals in this world, but there's nobody like you. You bring something different to the conversation, a different perspective, a different viewpoint, a different something, right? So just don't shy away from what makes you who you are. If we had a million me's, you know, what would that be? You know what I mean? I want to be able to tell our future generation that you are seen, you're worthy just the way you are. I truly, truly believe that we all have a journey here. We all have a mission and a calling, and really be in tune with that. Really find out what you're calling in and really invest in that so you can be a better person and really invest in our communities so we can have a better society.